The stars looked cold and empty in the darkness of space. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the displays show nothing but void. His blue skin gleamed under the soft lights, and his four arms moved smoothly as he checked the ship's systems. The Zephyrian hegemony had ruled this part of space for over 3,000 years. They were the most advanced race in the galaxy, or so they believed. "Admiral," called Science Officer Veltara from her station. Her voice carried the musical tone that all Zephyrians had. "We are detecting an unknown vessel at the edge of our scanning range." Kethvar turned his large head toward her, his eyes black and shining focused on the screen she was pointing at. A small dot appeared on the display, moving slowly through space. "What type of vessel?" he asked. Veltara's fingers danced over her controls. The Zephyrian technology was beautiful to watch. Their ships were made of living crystal that could think and grow. Their weapons used pure energy that could destroy planets. Everything they built was perfect and elegant. "Unknown design, Admiral. The ship appears to be made of crude metal. Very primitive construction." Kethvar felt a mix of curiosity and disappointment. The hegemony had been looking for new races to contact for decades. Most species they found were barely able to build simple spacecraft. This one looked the same. "Size and classification?" he asked. "Small. Perhaps a destroyer class by their standards. Length approximately 400 meters. It carries some kind of weapon systems, but they look very basic." The Admiral walked to the main viewing screen. The unknown ship appeared larger now. It was gray and black, with sharp angles and rough surfaces. To Zephyrian eyes it looked ugly and poorly made. Their own ships were smooth and curved, like works of art that could fly through space. "Any signs of advanced technology?" Kethvar asked. "Negative, Admiral. They seem to use chemical rockets for movement. Their power source appears to be some kind of nuclear reactor. Very primitive methods." The bridge crew made soft sounds of amusement. Nuclear power was something the Zephyrians had stopped using thousands of years ago. They had moved on to much cleaner and more efficient energy sources. To them, nuclear power was like using fire to cook food when you had perfect energy converters. "Have they detected us?" the Admiral asked. "Yes, Admiral. They are sending out scanning beams. Very weak and simple. They cannot penetrate our shields or see through our stealth systems." Kethvar nodded. This was normal. Most primitive races tried to scan Zephyrian ships when they first met them. They could never see much. The hegemony's technology was too far ahead of theirs. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. The communication officer, a young Zephyrian named Dexlon, worked at his station for a moment. "Channel open, Admiral. Unknown vessel. This is Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian hegemony. Please identify yourself and state your purpose in this system." There was a pause. Then a voice came through the speakers. It was rough and strange, unlike the musical tones of Zephyrian speech. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Retribution. We are on routine patrol of this sector. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic contact." The bridge crew looked at each other. Earth was not a planet they had heard of before. The voice had come from what sounded like a female of their species. Most races the Zephyrians met were similar to them in some ways, but this voice sounded very different. "Captain Chen," Kethvar replied, "we welcome peaceful contact with your species. We would like to learn more about your people and your technology. Would you be willing to allow us to perform some basic scans of your vessel?" Another pause. Then the voice came back. "We can allow limited scans for scientific exchange. However, we ask that you respect our security protocols and do not attempt to penetrate our classified systems." Veltara looked up from her station. She seemed excited by the possibility of studying new technology, even if it was primitive. "Admiral, their security systems would not be able to stop our scans anyway. We could learn everything about their ship in a few minutes." Kethvar thought for a moment. It was true that Zephyrian scanning technology was so advanced that most races could not even detect it, let alone stop it. But it was polite to ask permission first. "Very well, Captain Chen. We will perform only basic scans for now. Perhaps we can arrange a meeting between our peoples to discuss further cooperation." "That would be acceptable," came the reply. "We will maintain our current position and await your scans." The communication channel closed. Kethvar turned to his science officer. "Begin scanning, Veltara. Let us see what these humans have to offer." Veltara nodded and began working at her station. The Zephyrian scanning systems were incredible machines. They could see through almost any material and detect the smallest details of how things worked. They could map every wire, every circuit, every piece of metal in a ship. Beginning surface scans now, she reported. The hull appears to be made of steel and titanium alloy. Very thick construction, much heavier than necessary for a ship of this size. Weapon systems? Asked the Admiral. I am detecting several projectile weapon systems. They appear to fire solid metal shells using chemical explosives, very crude compared to our energy weapons. There are also some kind of missile launchers. The tactical officer, Commander Zixtal, shook his head. Projectile weapons? Do they still use gunpowder like ancient civilizations? It appears so, Veltara confirmed. Wait, I am also detecting some kind of energy weapon systems. They seem to use focused particle beams, still primitive but more advanced than pure projectiles. Admiral Kethvar watched the data appear on his screen. The human ship was indeed very basic compared to Zephyrian technology. Their weapons could probably not even scratch the hull of his flagship. Their propulsion was slow and inefficient. Their power systems were crude. But something felt strange about the readings. The ship seemed too solid, too heavy. Most races built their ships as light as possible to make them faster and more efficient. This human ship was built like a fortress. Defensive systems? He asked. They have some kind of energy shielding, but it is very weak. Their main defense seems to be the thickness of their hull armor. Admiral, this ship is built more like a bunker that can fly than a normal spacecraft. Interesting design philosophy, Kethvar mused. What about their crew? I am detecting approximately 200 life forms aboard the vessel. They appear to be carbon-based, similar to us, but with some significant differences. They seem to have only 2 arms and 2 legs, much smaller than us. The Admiral nodded. Most races were smaller than Zephyrians, who stood nearly 3 meters tall. These humans sounded particularly small and weak. What is their technological level overall? He asked. Veltara paused as she studied her readings. Very mixed, Admiral. Some systems are extremely primitive. Others show more sophistication. They seem to be a race in transition, still using old methods while developing newer ones. How long before you can complete a full scan? These are just surface scans, Admiral. To really understand their technology, I would need to penetrate deeper into their systems. Their security measures are almost non-existent. I could map their entire ship in perhaps an hour. Admiral Kethvar considered this. The humans seemed peaceful enough, and their technology was clearly no threat to the hegemony. A complete scan would help them understand what kind of race they were dealing with. It might also reveal if the humans had anything interesting to offer in trade or scientific exchange. Very well, he decided. Proceed with deep scans, but be careful not to damage their systems. We want to maintain friendly relations. Understood, Admiral. Beginning deep penetration scans now. As Veltara began her work, Admiral Kethvar felt satisfied. Soon they would know everything about these humans and their crude little ship. It would be another simple first contact with a primitive race. He had no idea that he was about to discover something that would change how the Zephyrians saw the galaxy forever. Veltara's fingers moved across her control panel with practiced ease. The Zephyrian scanning system was a marvel of technology. It used quantum resonance fields to peer through matter itself. No known material could block it completely. She had used it to study hundreds of alien vessels over her career, and none had ever surprised her. Deep scans are now active, she reported to Admiral Kethvar. Penetration depth is increasing steadily. The Admiral stood behind her station, watching the data streams flow across the display screens. The human ship appeared as a 3-dimensional image, slowly filling in with details as the scans went deeper. What he saw made him frown slightly. Their hull construction is very strange, Veltara commented. Look at this, Admiral. They have multiple layers of armor plating. Each layer is separated by empty space and support structures. Redundancy? Suggested Commander Zixtal from his tactical station. More than redundancy. This is excessive. No race needs this much protection for a simple patrol vessel. Veltara enhanced the image to show more detail. Each armor layer is thick enough to stop our older generation weapons. Why would they build something so heavy? Admiral Kethvar studied the display. In Zephyrian philosophy, elegance and efficiency were the highest virtues. Their ships were built with exactly what was needed, nothing more. Every component served multiple purposes. Waste was considered a sign of poor engineering. Perhaps they have not learned to build efficiently yet, he suggested. Many young races over-engineer their first space vessels. Maybe, Admiral. But look at this power distribution system. The image changed to show the internal workings of the human ship. They have backup systems for their backup systems. Every critical component has at least 3 replacements. The bridge crew gathered around to look at the display. What they saw was unlike anything in Zephyrian design. The human ship was filled with duplicate systems. If one power line was cut, another would take over. If one computer failed, 5 others could do its job. "This is madness," laughed the young communications officer. "How do they even lift this thing off their planet? It must weigh 10 times what it needs to." But Veltara was not laughing. Something about the readings bothered her. She increased the scan intensity and focused on the ship's power core. "Admiral, I am getting strange readings from their reactor." "What kind of readings?" "The energy output is much higher than it should be for a ship this size. And the reactor design. It is not just a power source." Admiral Kethvar moved closer to her station. "Explain." "Look at these containment fields around the reactor core. They are not just keeping the reaction stable. They are keeping it contained. As if..." She paused, checking her readings again. "As if the reactor is designed to explode." "All reactors can explode if damaged," Commander Zixtal pointed out. "No, you do not understand. This reactor is designed with built-in failure modes. Look here." She highlighted sections of the power core. "These are deliberate weak points. If triggered, they would cause a massive explosion." The bridge fell quiet. This made no sense to the Zephyrians. Their reactors were built to shut down safely if anything went wrong. The idea of designing a power source to explode was completely foreign to them. "Why would they do that?" asked Dexlon. "I do not know," Veltara admitted. "But it gets stranger. Look at their weapons storage." The display shifted to show the ship's armory. What the Zephyrians saw there made them step back in shock. The humans did not just carry weapons. They carried enough explosives to level a small city. "Those are not ship-to-ship weapons," Commander Zixtal said quietly. "Those are planet crackers." Admiral Kethvar stared at the image. The human ship carried nuclear warheads, chemical explosives, kinetic projectiles, and energy weapons, all in the same storage areas. Any accident would destroy not just the ship but everything within several kilometers. "How do they prevent accidental detonation?" he asked. Veltara checked her scans. "They do not, Admiral. These weapons are armed and ready to fire at all times. The safety systems are minimal." "This cannot be right. Check your readings again." She ran the scans 3 more times. Each time the results were the same. The human ship was essentially a flying bomb that could go off at any moment. "Admiral," she said slowly, "I think their entire military philosophy is different from ours." "How so?" "We build our ships to survive and win battles. They build their ships to cause maximum destruction, even if it destroys themselves in the process." The Admiral thought about this. It was true that different races had different approaches to warfare. Some preferred speed, others preferred heavy armor. But he had never encountered a race that seemed willing to destroy themselves to defeat an enemy. "Continue scanning," he ordered. "I want to understand how these humans think." Veltara turned back to her controls. The scans were now penetrating the living areas of the ship. What she found there was even more disturbing. "Admiral, I am detecting the crew quarters now. The life support systems are unusual." "In what way?" "They can operate in environments that would kill most species. Look at these atmospheric processors. They can function in high radiation, extreme temperatures, and toxic atmospheres." She brought up readings from the crew areas. The Zephyrians saw that the humans lived in conditions that would be considered harsh by most civilized standards. Their quarters were small and cramped. Their food appeared to be processed into basic nutrients with little regard for taste or pleasure. "They live like warriors preparing for battle," observed Commander Zixtal. "Not just preparing," Veltara corrected. "Look at the medical bay." The image shifted again. The human medical facility was unlike anything the Zephyrians had seen. Instead of healing chambers and regeneration pods, it was filled with surgical equipment designed for trauma treatment. The humans had medicine for treating radiation poisoning, surgical tools for battlefield amputations, and drugs for keeping soldiers conscious and fighting even with severe injuries. "This is not a medical bay," Admiral Kethvar said quietly. "This is a battlefield hospital." "Admiral, I am also detecting weapons lockers throughout the ship, not just in the armory. Every corridor, every room has weapons storage." The scans showed that the human crew was armed at all times. Each person carried personal weapons that were more powerful than what most races used for ship defense. The walls themselves contained emergency weapon caches. "They do not trust anyone," Dexlon observed. "Not even their own crew." Or they expect to be boarded and fight hand-to-hand combat inside their own ship, Veltara suggested. Admiral Kethvar felt a cold sensation in his chest. The more they learned about this human vessel, the more disturbing it became. These were not peaceful explorers like the Zephyrians. These were warriors who had built their entire ship around the concept of endless brutal warfare. What about their computer systems? He asked. Very interesting, Admiral. They do not use centralized artificial intelligence like we do. Instead, they have multiple independent computer networks that cannot communicate with each other. Why would they limit themselves that way? I believe it is another security measure. If one system is compromised, the others remain secure. But Admiral, look at what their computers contain. The data from the human computer systems appeared on screen. The Zephyrians expected to see star charts, scientific data, and cultural information. Instead, they found detailed plans for weapons, tactical manuals for ground combat, and strategic analyses of how to destroy various types of alien technology. They have been planning for war before they even met us, whispered Commander Zixtal. Not just war, Veltara corrected. Look at these files. They have scenarios for fighting in space, on planets underground, underwater, and in environments we cannot even imagine. They have prepared for every possible type of conflict. Admiral Kethvar studied the data streaming across his screens. Each new discovery made the humans seem more alien and frightening. They had built a ship that was designed to fight and die. Their crew lived like soldiers in a permanent state of war. Their computers were filled with plans for destruction. Admiral, Veltara said softly, I think we need to scan deeper. These surface systems are disturbing enough, but I suspect there is more. The Admiral looked at the tactical display showing both ships. The human vessel looked so small and primitive compared to his massive flagship, but now he was beginning to wonder if appearances could be deceiving. How much deeper can you scan? I can penetrate to their core systems, Admiral. Their security cannot stop our sensors. But, she paused. But what? I am not sure we want to know what we will find. There, Admiral Kethvar looked at his science officer with growing concern. In all his years of commanding Zephyrian fleets, he had never seen Veltara hesitate before. She was known for her curiosity and fearless approach to understanding alien technology. If she was worried about what they might find, perhaps they should be careful. Continue the deep scans, he ordered, but proceed slowly. Monitor everything carefully. Veltara nodded and turned back to her controls. Her 4 hands moved across the scanning interface, adjusting the quantum resonance fields to penetrate deeper into the human vessel. The energy beams passed through the multiple layers of armor, through the crew quarters, through the weapon systems, and down into the very heart of the ship. What they found there made everyone on the bridge go completely silent. Admiral, Veltara whispered, her musical voice shaking. This cannot be right. Run a diagnostic on all scanning equipment immediately. What are you seeing? Kethvar demanded, moving to look over her shoulder at the displays. The core of their ship. It is not what we thought. This is not just a nuclear reactor for power. Her fingers trembled as she adjusted the scan resolution. Admiral, their entire ship is built around a controlled nuclear explosion. The main display screen lit up with a detailed image of the human ship's core systems. What the Zephyrians saw defied everything they understood about spacecraft design. The reactor was not contained in a safe, isolated chamber like Zephyrian power sources. Instead, it was integrated into every system of the ship. Look at these power conduits, Veltara continued, her voice getting higher with each discovery. They are not just carrying energy. They are designed to carry the full force of a nuclear detonation throughout the entire vessel. Commander Zixtal leaned forward, studying the readings. Are you saying their ship is designed to explode? Worse than that, Veltara replied. Their ship is designed to become a nuclear weapon. Look at these control systems. With a single command, they can turn their reactor into a bomb powerful enough to destroy everything within 50 kilometers. Admiral Kethvar felt his blood turn cold. Surely this is some kind of emergency self-destruct system. No, Admiral. Look at these tactical protocols. New data appeared on the screen, showing the humans' combat procedures. This is a standard battle strategy for them. If they cannot defeat an enemy, they ram their ship into the enemy vessel and detonate their reactor. The bridge crew stepped back from the displays as if the images themselves were dangerous. In Zephyrian culture, the idea of deliberately destroying yourself to harm an enemy was almost unthinkable. They fought to preserve their beautiful civilization, not to annihilate everything around them. But the scans showed more horrors. Feltara's instruments penetrated deeper into the ship's systems, revealing details that made the Zephyrians question everything they thought they knew about the humans. "Admiral, look at their life support systems," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The environmental controls of the human ship appeared on screen. What the Zephyrians saw there was beyond their comprehension. The humans had not just built systems to keep their crew alive. They had built systems designed to keep their crew fighting in conditions that would kill any other known species. Their atmospheric processors can maintain life support even during nuclear bombardment, Veltara reported. Their water recycling systems can function with radioactive contamination. Their food production can continue even if the ship is filled with deadly radiation. "Why would they need such systems?" asked Dexlon. "Because they expect to fight battles inside exploding nuclear reactors," Commander Zixtal answered grimly. Scans continued, revealing more and more disturbing details. The human crew quarters were not just cramped and military in design. They were radiation-hardened bunkers that could protect the occupants from their own ship's weapons. The medical bay was not just equipped for battlefield surgery. It was designed to treat radiation sickness, chemical weapons exposure, and injuries that could only occur in the most extreme warfare imaginable. "Admiral," Veltara said, her voice now shaking with fear, "I am detecting the crew members themselves now. The biological scans they are not natural." "What do you mean?" "Look at these readings. The humans have modified themselves. Their bodies are not the same as they were born with." The biological scans appeared on screen, showing detailed images of the human crew members. What the Zephyrians saw made them recoil in horror. The humans had surgically altered their own bodies for war. "They have reinforced their skeletons with metal implants," Veltara reported. "Their muscles have been enhanced with synthetic fibers. Their nervous systems have been modified with cybernetic interfaces. They have turned themselves into weapons," whispered Commander Zixtal. But the horror did not stop there. The scans showed that the human crew members carried drugs in their bloodstreams that would allow them to function, even with massive injuries. They had backup organs implanted in their bodies. Their brains had been conditioned to feel no fear and no pain. "Admiral, look at their psychological profiles," Veltara said, bringing up new data. "Their minds have been trained since childhood for warfare. They do not think like normal beings." The mental analysis showed that the human crew members thought in terms of tactical advantages, kill ratios, and acceptable losses. They viewed their own deaths not as tragedies to be avoided, but as tactical resources to be used when necessary. "They are not afraid of dying," Admiral Kethvar observed with growing horror. "Worse than that, Admiral. They are not afraid of killing themselves to hurt their enemies. Look at these combat protocols." The human tactical manuals appeared on screen. The Zephyrians read combat strategies that involved using their own ships as guided missiles, detonating their own weapons while still wearing them, and converting their life support systems into chemical weapons factories. "This is madness," Dexlon said, backing away from his station. "No," Admiral Kethavar said quietly. "This is something worse than madness. This is intelligence applied to the art of destruction." Veltara continued her scans, penetrating into the ship's database systems. What she found there was the final piece that completed the horrifying picture of human warfare. "Admiral, I am accessing their historical records now. I think I understand why they are like this." "Show me," Kethvar ordered, though part of him did not want to know. The human historical databases opened like a window into hell. The Zephyrians saw thousands of years of human history, and it was all war. Humans had been fighting constantly. Since before they learned to write, they had developed increasingly creative and horrible ways to kill each other. They have been at war with themselves for their entire existence, Veltara reported. "Look at these weapon designs. Each generation creates more efficient ways to cause death and destruction." The database showed human weapons that could kill millions of people at once. They had created diseases designed to destroy their enemies. They had poisoned entire planets to deny them to their foes. They had fought wars in space, underwater, underground, and in dimensions the Zephyrians did not even understand. "Admiral," Veltara said, her voice now filled with true terror. "According to these records, this ship we are scanning is not a warship." "What?" "It is classified in their system as a light patrol vessel. Their actual warships are much larger and more heavily armed." The bridge fell completely silent. Everyone stared at the displays showing the human ship. This vessel, which they had thought was a simple destroyer, was actually one of humanity's smallest military units. If this was what humans considered a light patrol ship, what were their actual battle fleets like? There is more, Admiral, Veltara continued. According to their communications logs, there are thousands of these patrol ships, and behind them are ships they call dreadnoughts and planet killers. Admiral Kethvar felt the universe shift around him. Everything he had believed about the balance of power in the galaxy was wrong. The Zephyrians had thought they were the most advanced and powerful race in known space. Now they had discovered a species that had turned warfare into an art form beyond their wildest nightmares. Veltara, he said slowly, can their sensors detect our scans? She checked her readings. No, Admiral. Their technology is not advanced enough to know we are studying them. Good. Continue scanning. I want to know everything about these humans. Everything. Admiral, are you sure? What we have found so far? Continue scanning. He repeated firmly. If we are sharing the galaxy with beings like this, we need to understand exactly what we are dealing with. Veltara nodded reluctantly and returned to her controls. But as she prepared to scan even deeper into the human vessel, she could not shake the feeling that some knowledge was too dangerous to possess. The humans had built a ship that was essentially a flying nuclear bomb, operated by cybernetically enhanced warriors who had no fear of death. And this was just their patrol vessel. What horrors would they find if they ever encountered a real human warship? Veltara's hands shook as she accessed deeper layers of the human ship's data systems. Each new discovery painted a more terrifying picture of humanity than the last. The Zephyrian bridge crew watched in horrified fascination as their understanding of the galaxy's balance of power crumbled around them. Admiral, she said, her voice barely steady, I am now accessing their educational databases. I think you need to see how they raise their young. The main screen filled with data from human educational institutions. What the Zephyrians saw there defied their understanding of how civilized beings should develop their children. These are their schools, Veltar explained, highlighting sections of the data. Admiral, they teach warfare to children as young as 5 years old. Admiral Kethvar studied the information with growing disbelief. Human children learned mathematics by calculating artillery trajectories. They studied chemistry by understanding explosive compounds. Their history lessons focused on famous battles and military strategies. Look at these physical education programs, Commander Zixtal pointed out. They train their children in hand-to-hand combat, weapons handling, and survival techniques. It gets worse, Veltara continued. Their higher education institutions have entire departments dedicated to military science. They study the art of war like we study music or poetry. The displays showed human military academies where young adults learned to plan campaigns, design weapons, and lead troops into battle. But what disturbed the Zephyrians most was that these were not just military schools. Every human university had courses in military tactics and weapons technology. They all learn how to fight, Dexlon observed with horror. Every single one of them. Admiral, look at their civilian infrastructure, Veltara said, bringing up new data. Their entire society is organized around the possibility of total war. The scans revealed that human civilian buildings were constructed to serve as fortresses during wartime. Their transportation systems could be converted to move military equipment. Their factories could switch from making consumer goods to producing weapons within days. They do not just have a military, Admiral Kethvar realized. Their entire civilization is a military. But the revelations continued to get worse. Veltara accessed the human ship's communication logs and found records of conversations between human vessels throughout their space. Admiral, they are not alone out here. According to these communications, there are human ships patrolling throughout this entire sector of space. The communication log showed a vast network of human vessels, all armed and ready for battle. They coordinated their movements like a military fleet, sharing intelligence and maintaining constant readiness for combat. How many ships? Kethvar asked. At least several hundred in this region alone. And Admiral... She paused, checking the data again. They refer to this as a peaceful patrol zone. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. If hundreds of these flying nuclear bombs represented peaceful patrol activity, what would human space look like during actual wartime? Continue. Scanning their tactical databases, Admiral Kethvar ordered. I want to understand their military doctrine. Veltara accessed the human tactical systems, and what she found there shattered the last of the Zephyrians' confidence. The human military manuals contained strategies for fighting every type of opponent they could imagine, including races they had never encountered. Look at this, Admiral. They have battle plans for fighting energy-based life forms, silicon-based, creatures and beings that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. How is that possible? They cannot have met such species. No, Admiral. But they have imagined them and created ways to defeat them anyway. Look at these weapon specifications. The human weapons databases appeared on screen. The Zephyrians saw designs for weapons that could disrupt energy patterns, bombs that could shatter crystalline structures, and radiation sources that could sterilize entire ecosystems. They have created weapons for enemies that do not exist yet, Commander Zixtal said in amazement. They have created weapons for enemies that might never exist, Veltara corrected. Admiral, I think they design weapons and tactics just for the intellectual challenge of it. The scans revealed human research facilities dedicated to developing new forms of destruction. They studied the weaknesses of every material, every energy source, and every form of life they could discover. Then they created weapons specifically designed to exploit those weaknesses. Here are their contingency plans, Veltara said, accessing another database. They have detailed strategies for fighting races with superior technology, races with superior numbers, and races with superior physical abilities. Admiral Kethavar studied the human battle plans with professional interest, despite his growing fear. The strategies were brilliant in their ruthlessness. If humans encountered an enemy, they could not defeat through direct combat. They would poison their worlds. If they met beings too advanced for their weapons, they would use suicide attacks. If they faced creatures too numerous to fight, they would destroy entire star systems to stop them. They never planned to surrender, he observed. No, Admiral. Look at these protocols. If faced with certain defeat, they have orders to ensure their enemies gain nothing from their victory. They will destroy their own worlds before allowing them to be captured. The concept was so alien to Zephyrian thinking that it took several moments for the full implications to sink in. The Zephyrians fought to protect their beautiful civilization. If defeated, they would negotiate terms that would preserve their people and culture. The humans seemed prepared to destroy everything rather than accept defeat. Admiral, I am now accessing their personal effects databases, Veltara reported. I want to understand what individual human soldiers carry into battle. The personal equipment inventories appeared on screen. What the Zephyrians saw there convinced them that humans were not just warriors by training, but by their very nature. Each crew member carries enough explosives to level a city block, Veltara reported. They have personal weapons that could destroy our shuttlecraft, and look at this. They carry devices for converting ordinary materials into deadly weapons. The human soldiers carried equipment that could turn water into acid, air into poison gas, and metal into explosives. They did not just prepare for battle. They were ready to turn any environment into a battlefield. What about their recreational activities? Asked Exelon, hoping to find some sign of normal civilian interests. Veltara accessed the human entertainment databases. What she found offered no comfort. Their games simulate warfare, Admiral. Their stories are about battles and conquest. Their music celebrates military victories. Even their sports are stylized combat. The Zephyrians realized that humans did not have a military culture. They were a military culture. Everything they did was connected to warfare in some way. They competed with each other constantly, turning every activity into a form of combat training. Admiral, I have found something that explains a great deal, Veltara said, accessing deeper, historical files. Look at their evolutionary history. The biological data showed that humans had evolved on a planet filled with predators and environmental dangers. Unlike the Zephyrians, who had developed intelligence on a peaceful world, humans had been forced to fight for survival every day of their existence. They are not warriors by choice, Admiral Kethavar realized. They are warriors by necessity. Their entire species evolved to be weapons. It explains their psychology, Admiral. They do not see warfare as an unfortunate necessity like we do. They see it as the natural state of existence. The scans revealed that human DNA itself had been shaped by millions of years of constant warfare, their reflexes, their aggression, their ability to function under stress. Everything about them had been designed by evolution to make them more effective killers. Admiral, Veltara said quietly, I have one more database to access. Their strategic planning systems. Show me. The human long-term strategic plans appeared on screen. What the Zephyrians saw there was the final piece of the puzzle that revealed the true scope of human ambition. They are planning to spread throughout the entire galaxy, Veltara reported. Not for trade or scientific exchange, for military control. The human expansion plans showed a systematic approach to galactic conquest. They would establish patrol zones like this one throughout space. They would study every race they encountered, learning their weaknesses and developing strategies to defeat them. They would build bases on strategic worlds and create supply lines for their fleets. Admiral, according to these plans, they consider every other species in the galaxy to be a potential threat that must eventually be neutralized. Admiral Kethavar stared at the strategic displays with growing horror. The humans were not just a warrior race. They were a species that viewed the entire galaxy as a battlefield, and every other intelligent being as an enemy to be defeated. "How long have they been spacefaring?" he asked. "According to these records, less than 200 years. Admiral, they have built this military infrastructure in less time than it takes most races to establish their first colony." The implications were staggering. In 2 centuries, humans had gone from being trapped on their homeworld to deploying military fleets throughout the galaxy. Admiral Kethavar stood motionless on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the tactical display that showed the small human vessel. Just minutes ago, that ship had seemed like a primitive curiosity. Now it looked like the most dangerous object in the galaxy. His 4 hands trembled slightly as he processed everything they had learned. "Veltara," he said quietly, "shut down all scanning operations immediately." "Admiral," she looked up from her station with confusion. "Shut them down now. We do not want to give the humans any reason to consider us a threat." The science officer quickly powered down the deep scanning systems. The bridge crew watched nervously as the quantum resonance fields faded away. They all understood what their admiral was thinking. If the humans detected aggressive scanning, they might interpret it as hostile action. Commander Zixtal, Kethavar, continued, "Order the entire fleet to withdraw to maximum safe distance. Do it slowly. No sudden movements." "Admiral, safe distance from what? Their weapons cannot even reach us at this range." "Safe distance from their nuclear detonation," Kethavar explained grimly. "If they decide to ram us and explode their reactor, I want enough space to escape the blast." The tactical officer's face went pale as he realized the implications. He quickly sent orders to the other Zephyrian ships in the area. The graceful crystal vessels began moving away from the human ship, with careful, non-threatening maneuvers. "What about the communication channel?" asked Dexlon. "Keep it open, but say nothing unless they contact us first. We do not want to provoke them." Admiral Kethavar walked to his command chair and activated the emergency council system. Within moments, holographic images of other Zephyrian commanders appeared around him. Their beautiful, elegant forms looked fragile compared to the brutal efficiency of human design. "Fellow commanders," he began, "we have a situation that requires immediate attention at the highest levels of the hegemony." "What kind of situation?" asked Admiral Yelthara from the Third Fleet. Kethavar took a deep breath. "We have encountered a species that poses a fundamental threat to every civilized race in the galaxy." He shared the scanning data with the other commanders. As they studied the information, their expressions changed from curiosity to confusion to outright terror. "This cannot be accurate," protested Commander Rixlon from the Science Division. "No species could be this militarized and still maintain a stable civilization." "The data has been verified multiple times," Veltara interjected. "Every reading is consistent. The humans have built their entire society around perpetual warfare." "How many of these ships do they have?" asked Admiral Yelthara. "Unknown, but preliminary estimates suggest thousands throughout the galaxy," Kethavar replied. "And this vessel we scanned is classified as a light patrol ship. Their actual warships are much larger and more heavily armed." The holographic council fell silent as the implications sank in. The Zephyrian hegemony had maintained peace in their region of space for centuries through superior technology and diplomatic skill. Now they had discovered a race that seemed capable of destroying them without even trying. "What are our options?" asked Commander Rixlon. "Limited," Kethavar admitted. "We could attempt to establish friendly relations and hope they do not see us as a threat. And if they do see us as a threat, then we face an enemy that is willing and able to destroy entire star systems to achieve victory." Admiral Yelthara studied the tactical data with professional interest. "Their technology is, primitive compared to ours. Surely our energy weapons and crystalline hulls give us an advantage." "Against a normal opponent, yes," Kethavar agreed. "But the humans do not fight like normal opponents. They are willing to sacrifice themselves to hurt their enemies. Our advantages mean nothing if they are prepared to ram nuclear bombs into our ships." The Council discussed various military options. They could attempt a preemptive strike against human space. They could try to build stronger defenses, They could develop new weapons specifically designed to fight human tactics, but every strategy they considered ran into the same problem. The humans had been perfecting the art of warfare for thousands of years. They had weapons and tactics that the Zephyrians could not even imagine. More importantly, they had a mindset that made them incredibly dangerous opponents. There is another factor to consider, Veltara added. The humans are expanding rapidly. According to their strategic plans, they intend to establish a presence throughout the galaxy within the next few centuries. Military conquest? Asked Admiral Yelthara. Not exactly. They call it securing strategic positions against potential threats. But the result is the same. They want to control key systems throughout the galaxy. Commander Rixalon brought up a galactic map and began marking human territories based on the intelligence they had gathered. The pattern that emerged was deeply disturbing. Human expansion was not random. They were systematically positioning themselves to control the most important trade routes and resource systems in the galaxy. They are not just planning for war, he observed. They are planning to win it. Admiral Kethvar studied the map with growing concern. The human expansion pattern showed strategic thinking on a galactic scale. They were not just a warrior race. They were a warrior race led by brilliant military minds. Admiral, Veltara said quietly, I have been analyzing their communication logs. I think there is something else you need to know. What is it? The humans know we scanned them. The bridge went dead silent. Every Zephyrian turned to stare at her. How is that possible? Their sensors cannot detect our quantum resonance fields. No, but they can detect the effects. Look at these energy readings from their ship. She brought up new data on the displays. Our scans caused minor fluctuations in their systems. Nothing that would damage them, but enough to show up on their instruments. What was their response? They did nothing, Admiral. They continued their normal operations as if nothing had happened. Admiral Kethvar felt a chill run through his body. The humans had known they were being scanned by an unknown alien technology, and they had not reacted at all. No defensive measures, no alerts, no attempts to block the scans. Either they are incredibly confident in their abilities, he said, slowly, or they wanted us to learn what we learned. The implications of this possibility were terrifying. If the humans had deliberately allowed the Zephyrians to scan their ship, then everything they had discovered might be a message. A demonstration of human capabilities designed to discourage potential enemies. Admiral, Dexalon reported from his station. We are receiving a transmission from the human vessel. Put it through. The rough voice of Captain Chen filled the bridge. Admiral Kethavar, this is Captain Chen. I hope your scans have been informative. We are always happy to share scientific knowledge with new friends. The casual tone of her voice was somehow more frightening than any threat could have been. She knew they had been studying her ship, and she was not concerned about it at all. Captain Chen, Admiral Kethavar replied carefully, we appreciate your cooperation. We have learned a great deal about your impressive technology. I'm glad to hear it, Admiral. Perhaps we can arrange further exchanges of information in the future. We humans are always interested in learning about our neighbors in the galaxy. The word neighbors carried implications that made the Zephyrians uncomfortable. The humans clearly saw themselves as having a permanent presence in this region of space. That would be most educational, Kethvar replied. Excellent. We will transmit coordinates for a diplomatic meeting if your government is interested. We believe that peaceful cooperation between our species would benefit everyone. The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrian bridge crew in stunned silence. The humans were offering peaceful cooperation, but their definition of peace seemed very different from everyone else's. Admiral, Commander Zixtal said quietly, what do we do now? Kethvar looked at the tactical display one more time. The human ship hung in space like a loaded weapon, its crew of enhanced warriors ready for any conflict. Behind it, somewhere in the darkness, were thousands more just like it. We send a message to the High Council, he decided. Priority Alpha. Full security encryption. What should the message say? Admiral Kethavar thought carefully about how to explain what they had discovered. How do you tell your government that everything they believed about galactic politics was wrong? How do you explain that the most dangerous predators in the universe looked like peaceful explorers? Tell them we have encountered a species that requires immediate diplomatic contact at the highest levels. Tell them that our previous assumptions about galactic security need to be completely reconsidered. And tell them. He paused, watching the human ship on his screens. Tell them that we are no longer the dominant military power in this region of space. As the Zephyrian fleet began its careful withdrawal, Admiral Kethvar realized that this day had changed everything. The galaxy was not the safe, civilized place they had thought it was. Somewhere out there in the darkness, billions of enhanced human warriors were spreading throughout space, building bases, and preparing for conflicts that might not come for centuries. The age of Zephyrian dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. And the most terrifying part was that the humans seemed genuinely interested in being friends.